Welcome to Thinking Blocks. With our new Math in Focus program, one of the strategies that we are introducing to students is using bar modeling to solve problems. And bar modeling is aligned with the Thinking Blocks strategy. This is an online practice that students can use to help guide them through the processes that they will use when they're using the bar modeling strategy to work through word problems. So when students are new to my class, I guide them to thinkingblocks.com. They'll come home with a worksheet, so they will be sitting with pencil and paper in front of them as they're looking at the monitor and working through the exercises. The first exercise is in the addition tab, so the students would click on addition. When a student gets to this screen, you can see the different types of models. So here's the visual representation of the model, and here's the name of the model. So if I were to click on a different model, you can see that the name changes, and the same is true for each category. Down here, students who are emerging in their skills can use lower numbers from 1 to 50, while if the student needs a greater challenge, they could select numbers 1 to 300. When a student begins a new section, they will have a record sheet to help them keep track of where they're supposed to be and what date the assignment is due. The first thing that they'll do, that I'm not going to click on now because it'll be about a 2-minute video, is they watch the video. On that video, there is a tutorial of how to solve a problem using the type of model that's highlighted. So if a student were to watch this video, they would see a representation of a part-whole model with 2 parts. And that's a great way for the students to get that introduction. This tracking mode, we would like tracking mode to be on. It's fun for students to record their progress. One of the things to note about tracking mode is that once it only saves the students' progress for the session they are working on that day. Once they exit the program, it does not keep track of the students' scores from prior sessions. So then a student, once they had watched the video, they would begin the problem. Okay, so here are the instructions on the bottom. Read the word problem, identify the parts and the whole, then build a model. Drag 2 blocks and 3 labels to the targets in the work area. Tap the check button to check your work. Okay, the problem is actually right here up at the top. Word problem. Leah bought some balloons for the party. There were 28 green balloons and 22 red balloons. How many balloons did Leah buy altogether? Now, one of the things that students are required to do in the bar modeling that they are not required to do in the Thinking Blocks program is to rewrite the question that's asked as a statement. So in this case, a student would have their assignment sheet in front of them. They would look at the question, how many balloons did Leah buy altogether? What they would be expected to write down in their notebook would be this. Leah bought blank balloons altogether. And at the end of the problem, they would go in and fill in the blank. The next thing the students do is they're going to fill in the bar using the blocks. So she bought some balloons for a party. She bought 28 green balloons and she bought 22 red balloons. So these 2 bars both represent parts of the whole. Some of them are green balloons, some of them are red balloons, and then there's a total. So we can fill in the section. First were the green balloons. Next were the red balloons. Doesn't matter the color of the bar. We just have to get the labels right and follow the order in which they're presented in the problem. The total balloons are what the whole bar shows. And students would check their progress. Now, the next thing to do is add the numbers to the model. So they would have to go back to the problem. How many green balloons did they buy? 28. So I bring the 28 over to this bar. She bought 22 red balloons. How many balloons altogether? Students do not know that yet. And then they check their progress. Okay. Now, if you look down here, it says compare the size directly. The size of your blocks should relate to the numbers in the problem. It's okay to estimate. So you can click resize blocks, and it makes one of the blocks a little bit larger than the other one to represent how great those numbers were. Okay, so then the student needs to type in the answer. So they need to figure out 28 plus 22. So they come over to the calculator, type in the answer, it shows up in the answer box, and hit check. You can see in the tracking mode the student has 1 star, and they continue on to the next problem. Now they look, here are the directions again. It tells you to drag 2 blocks and 3 labels to the targets. The word problem is up at the top. The student has a record sheet in front of them. They read the problem. Mason had 26 crayons. His sister gave him 18 crayons. How many crayons did Mason have then? The next step that's not on thinking blocks that students will be required to do on their sheet is to rewrite the question as a statement. It might be something like this. Mason had blank crayons then. And then the student could go on and finish the problem, dragging the blocks and dragging the labels. So that each section, each video a student watches, they should walk away with a paper that has 5 sentences on it with the answer filled in the blank. And then we can check those at school. Just ask me if you have any further questions about thinking blocks.